Well, today we're going to talk about 5 of my personal favorite ukulele players. And now this list is just mine. It's not the 5 best or anything like that. And really, to be honest, this is a list of 5 ukulele players who have had the most profound impact on me, both musically and personally in some cases. So, there's way more than 5 ukulele players that should be said with this. Some honorable mentions, and I'm gonna miss some in the honorable mentions too, but we've got like Calais Gamiao, Aldrin Guerrero, Chris Fujigami, Brittany Paiva, Taimani Gardner, like incredible players, and it's not that I don't like them as much as these other players. It's just I've had it's we'll talk about my list and why I have it, but there are tons of fantastic, amazing ukulele players, and don't think of this list as an end all for them. And I'm not trying to throw shade at any other players because, again, there's so many incredible ones. This is just my list of 5 that had the most profound impact on me, both for music and otherwise. So let's go ahead and start. The first one on my list I'm going to name is Daniel Ho. Now, Daniel Ho is a fantastic, phenomenal musician as much as he is ukulele player. He plays guitar, does slack key work. He's a vocalist. He plays piano. I think, probably the most well-rounded musician on this list in general. And he makes the list for a few reasons. And the first major one is because of what I learned first on the ukulele. When I started playing the ukulele, the first, I would say, real ukulele song that I learned was one of his songs that's called Pineapple Mango, which you may have heard before. Sometimes it's even on commercials and things like that. It's a really fun, just happy sounding song. The melody sounds something like this. And that's an F. He normally plays it in G, but the tab I found was in F, and it was the first song that I really learned that was a ukulele song. And what was so cool about it is my mom, who plays guitar and can play a couple chords on the ukulele. I taught her the chord progression, which is just F, B flat, C, F, and that's all that there is to the song. And I'd have her play this while I go and play along with it. It was just so much fun. It was the first time that I kind of started feeling like I was going to be an ukulele player, if that makes any sense. And then what's so amazing about that is from there, I started getting more opportunities to play and tour and, do other things like that. And I got to meet Daniel Ho in Australia at a tour that I did there and at the Cairns Ukulele Festival. And I think to this day, it's still my career highlight as a performer was I got to perform that song with Daniel in Australia. And so for my little humble brag moment, um, he's a Grammy award winning artist. So I got to perform with a Grammy award winning artist uh, on an international stage. Like, how cool is that? And it's the first song I learned on the uke. It was just such a magical, special moment to be able to perform with him and play that. It was just, I still, when I think about it, get chills. But the cool thing about Daniel is he's just so down to earth. I mean, all these players are. To be completely honest, all ukulele players I've met are down to earth. But Daniel was really supportive and talked to me about how cool it was for him for me to play the song just because I told him it was like the first song I learned on the ukulele. And so Daniel's one of my all-time favorite players for that and many other reasons. He also is just a fantastic instrumentalist. In addition to everything else, his album Polani is one of my favorites. That's definitely the album that you should check out of his for solo ukulele. Just love it. It's it, yeah. So Daniel Ho, one of my all-time favorite players. That's why. Now, to go with Daniel there, the first ukulele workshop I ever attended was a workshop that Daniel Ho gave along with Herb Oda Jr., who's my number 2 on this list, or the second person I'm naming. It's not a top 5 any particular order. It's just the 5. But Herb Oda Jr. Is next on this list, and I met him and Daniel at the same time. But I couldn't do anything on the ukulele other than play Pineapple Mango, and I got to attend a workshop and see them perform. And I went with my good friend John Moen, who was another ukulele player, who really should be making this list too, to be honest. But it was just such a cool experience because up to that point, I'd never really gotten to share the passion for ukulele with anyone else. And when I went to this workshop, it was like, everybody's into this, everybody loves this. And with Herb, the thing about Herb is, I think he has the best tone of any ukulele player in the world. Not that other people aren't good with tone, that's not it at all. It's that Herb has this clarity and this articulation to his playing that I don't think anybody else really has. And his style really reflects that. And if you know anything about Herb Oda Jr., you might know that his dad, Herb Oda san, is kind of the original, main ukulele player, so to speak. He was absolutely huge in his time and still is today. But it's kind of cool because Herb Oda Jr., I think, even surpassed his father in terms of tone and ability, and really lived up to the name and surpassed it, so to speak. Herb Oda Jr. is just a phenomenal player. Really funny guy too, if you've ever watched him perform. But with Herb Oda, again, it's all about tone. That's the thing that I really, really love about him. And him playing body surfing is my favorite example of his tone because of how clear he plays it. And so body surfing sounds something like this. And it's the clarity that he plays all the way up here with, and the speed that he can do it with. It's just unbelievable. And what's cool is he and Daniel would do a lot of performances together. I saw them perform a few times together, and they just fed off of each other. And Herb's tone when he's playing up here, just incredible. Just absolutely incredible. And I got to meet Herb as well a couple other times, including that same ukulele festival in Cannes just the next year, or maybe it was the year after. I don't remember. I got to do it 3 times. I was very lucky with that. I think it was 2 years later. And got to meet him and talk to him more. And the funny thing about that was I used to own a Kamaka ukulele that was his father's like signature series uke. And I actually got to have Herb Oda sign that ukulele at a uke festival in 2008 in Seattle, where he played along with 2 others on this top 5 list, actually. And so I got to meet him there. And then when I met him again in Australia a couple of years later, he remembered me as the guy with his dad's uke. So that was kind of fun because he remembered me when I was just there as somebody attending the workshop versus when in Australia I was there as a performer and teacher. So Herb Oda Jr., tone, clarity, just so good. My favorite album of his is actually one with Daniel Ho. I think it's called Step It Up 2. It's the second album that they did together, and it's so good. I just love it so much. The third album they did together is also really good. It covers more of, I think, his dad's music, so things like body surfing are on there. But it also has Daniel Ho shredding on it too, so it's a win-win in that respect. Herb Oda just released a new album as well, which I haven't listened to yet, regrettably. I can't wait to go catch that one. But yeah, tone and clarity, all about that with Herb Oda. And so moving on to the next player on this, I just mentioned that festival. In 2008, I attended a ukulele festival here in Seattle as just a person attending a festival. And to be honest, that festival was the moment that I decided I want to do this for a living. I want to get good enough to be one of those people at the festival performing and teaching, and that this is what I want to do. And so that festival is really an important, special thing for me. And Herb Oda Jr. and Herb Oda Sr. were both at it, as well as another player named John King. And he's going to be another one on this list. Now, John King unfortunately passed away, oh man, it was almost 10 years ago, I think now. It was quite a while. But he was such a special player in so many ways. And the way that he's most special to me was just his approach with the ukulele and how he played classical music. He adapted, very kind of classical music is known as, proper music, but he did it in such a fun way. It wasn't just about playing classical music properly. It was about playing it on the ukulele and making it sound beautiful, but also fun. And I still remember watching him perform for the first and only time. And he walks out on stage with this itty bitty ukulele. I think it was a sopranino, and he had a little bit of a gut, as we do as we get older. And he walks out on stage with some contact paper, like sticky paper. He sits down in the chair and he drapes the contact paper onto him. Takes the ukulele, puts it onto the contact paper, and then just makes the most beautiful music you'll ever hear in your life. It was just so funny and awesome because it was like, you know, this is how I play, and wow, it's incredible. The reason John King, really shows up for this for me is, not just that impact on that festival and everything, but his creation in a lot of ways, or at least the refinement of the campanella technique. And if I'm pronouncing this wrong, I'm sorry. It's an Italian word, whatever it is. This word means bell-like in Italian, and what it is the act of using really a high G ukulele to allow the melody to ring over multiple strings. And so I'll give a little demonstration of this, and hopefully the hands are warm enough for this, of playing a little bit of a Bach cello prelude that he did an arrangement of that's still to this day one of my all-time favorite arrangements. I still have to learn the whole thing. I learn little bits and pieces and always come back to it, but one of these days I just have to sit down and learn it. But he was a master of putting these melodies over the ukulele, because the reality is that a high G ukulele has a very limited range. It's not a big range of an instrument. It's just not. But that limited range actually becomes a strength when you're trying to put melody notes over multiple strings. A mandolin has to articulate each note on a string and kind of walk up and down because the range is so big. On an ukulele, however, though, you can play these melody notes in some different ways. So I'm going to try to play a little bit of this. Should sound something like... All right. So that's a little bit of this Bach cello prelude. Now, you could play it like this. And you hear how the notes are articulated individually? What he did is he put it over multiple strings. And that's what made it sound so special. Hear how each note is ringing into each other? That's the campanella technique. And that's really what John King, I think, refined, if not created, for the ukulele. And it's my favorite technique on the ukulele, or at least one of them, favorite finger picking technique. Whenever I'm doing arrangements for myself, I try to incorporate that in some way, because that's what creates, to me, the sound of an ukulele. So John King, very special player with that technique. Classical music in terms of what you're going to hear with him, and also a lot of traditional Hawaiian music. And just beautiful to listen to. He's got a lot of incredible videos on YouTube as well, so please check it out. Rest in power, John King. You are just, you are a very, very special musician. So what is that? That's 3, right? So let's go to a number 4. And number 4 is going to be James Hill. Now, James Hill, you've probably heard of before. And I'm not going to play any of James' music because I can't. James Hill is such a different style than anyone else that I've really ever heard. James Hill is the most innovative ukulele player, I think, of all time. Between his techniques, he's got techniques that he calls like the sugar packet roll, which is like a tremolo on a string with strumming. Sherry picking, which is a technique he wrote for a song called Song for Sherry, which I think Rock Class here has a triplet strum technique that's very similar that you can work with. But he created so much with the ukulele, and there's so much innovation there that alone would warrant him a place in this top 5 list of my personal favorite players. But more than all of that, it's just who James is that makes him in this top list. Going back to that festival in 2008, I was just there as a festival goer, and James was one of the performers there. So we had James, we had Herb, we had John. It was a special festival, and I was just a fanboy, just, obsessed. And James was cool with it. He just, kind of took me under the wing at the festival, and between workshops or whatever would chat, and was never seemed annoyed by me talking to him or anything else. He was excited to be there, and I was excited to try to absorb as much information as I could. And it was really, really a special experience. And what's crazy about that is 2 years later, James and I performed at three different festivals very close together. We performed in Reno, and then again in Seattle, and then in Australia. So we got to do a lot of this sort of festival circuit together, and we became pretty good friends through that. And I really consider him the most important, just pure ukulele mentor that I had, from the standpoint of he taught me how to be a professional, how to have confidence on stage, how to have confidence doing workshops, how to trust in my own ability and my own playing. And I can't thank him enough for that. When I was recording my album, which now was a few years ago, let's see, that album I recorded in 2016, the beginning of 2016, I think. I talked to James for like 45 minutes or an hour on the phone beforehand, just with him giving me tips and tricks on how to record and all of this sort of stuff. And we had a number of conversations with that over the years. And it's been a little while now since I've talked to him. I don't do festivals as much as I used to. And but I know that when we talk the next time, it'll be like, no time has passed. And so James is just an incredible human being, a phenomenal player. I forgot to grab my chopsticks. If you haven't seen that, check out James playing the ukulele with chopsticks. I'm not kidding. It's amazing. You can see him do the beatboxing, which I can't do to save my life. He does all these innovative, crazy things, and it's unreal. And so James Hill, again, is a player that's worth checking out because of his innovation, but also just a fantastic human being who really helped me. And I don't think I would be sitting here doing this for a living if it weren't for the guidance and help that James gave me. I remember, another festival we did together was Eugene, and that was in, I think, 2009, I want to say. We did the Eugene Uktoberfest, and it was really cool because I think that's where I met him for the first time as a professional player instead of just somebody at a festival. And after one of my performances or workshops, between stuff, we just hung out and played together, and I played him some songs and got tips from him, and it was just like, this is amazing. Like, I'm getting the best masterclass in the world, and he's just helping me out. It's really, really cool. So again, I can't really play much of his stuff because his style is so different than mine, but he's one of my favorites to listen to. And yeah, A Flying Leap, his sort of debut ukulele album, is my favorite of his, but he's ventured out and started doing other things as well. He plays a lot of singer-songwriter type styles with just beautiful, beautiful music. And so at that point, it becomes less about the ukulele and more just about the music that he's playing. And that's something to admire. He's also an incredible teacher with the ukulele certification program and everything else. So check out James Hill if you haven't already. So we got 4 down, right? So we've got Daniel Ho, first song I ever learned, got to perform with him, just a fun, charismatic person. Herb Oda Jr., another fun, awesome, funny person, but also the best tone I think there is, articulation and ability to play. We've got John King, who used the campanella technique to really take the ukulele, in my opinion, to new heights, adapting classical music and creating rich melodic sequences with that sustain of all 4 strings. And then we have James Hill, the most innovative player, who also happened to be the biggest mentor to me and my, ability to become a performer and teacher and everything else. And so number 5, I don't think is going to be a shock to anybody, or number 1, or whatever you want to think of it. And that's Jake Shimabukuro. Now, Jake's music is really my favorite to play. And to be completely honest, Jake's music's been my biggest teacher. I still remember I was 16. The album Dragon just came out by Jake Shimabukuro. And he was performing at a local venue. And I knew like CF and G7 right now on the ukulele. That was about it. I didn't know how to do anything. And I saw his While My Guitar Gently Weeps video on YouTube. And then I saw him perform, and my mind was blown. It was at that moment I knew I need to play the ukulele. Like, and not just, not just this play. I need to play the ukulele. And so that show, I think, was a big turning point for my passion in the instrument. And I just became obsessed with trying to learn his stuff. And, for a long time, I just couldn't. But I'd obsessively listen to it. I'd obsessively try things. There was a song called, I think it was Toastman's Revenge off Walking Down Rain Hill. The melody is, what was it? Uh, and I learned that little line, and I was obsessed with playing that for a long time. And then I started finding some tabs of his songs online, thanks to Dominator, if you're familiar with him. But anyways, uh, and those tabs were, I think, my one of my best teachers, truly, because I started to learn Jake's songs. Not well, mind you. They didn't sound good when I started learning, but I could spend hours and hours and hours just practicing these songs. And the really cool thing about Jake's music, especially his early music, is all of these songs that he wrote sort of utilize a different technique. And it's almost like they were written around a technique. One of the first Jake songs I learned was Dragon, which is this tapping song. And it's just this beautiful melody, but it's all around the tapping technique. So I learned that song, I learned tapping, right? Another one of his songs is like Let's Dance, this heavy flamenco. The tremolo. With really fast strumming, lots of chunks. I learned all these flamenco techniques from learning that song. Another song they did was one called Me and Shirley T. Lots of strumming, keeping a beat and groove, and I learned elements of groove from this. I also learned a lot in terms of playing with the thumb for melody, as you'll hear in a second here. Learned a lot of different techniques from that. And then there's songs like Blue Roses Falling, Cross Current. There's his arrangements of like Thriller and While My Guitar Gently Weeps. And all of these different songs, I mean, I learned a lot of them. Basically, almost any song that Jake played at performances, I would say maybe, 4 out of 5, circa 2009, I learned. Now, again, I didn't learn them as well as Jake, but I learned them, and they gave me this huge gamut of different techniques that I could apply for my own songwriting, my own arranging, and everything else. And his style, his sound is what I wanted. That video of him playing While My Guitar Gently Weeps was the most profound influence of any YouTube video or anything like that could have ever happened to me. And I still, to this day, aspire for that tone, that sound. And so Jake, to me, is what the ukulele should sound like. That's just this tone when I listen to something in my head that I want to aspire to, what I want for tone. And he's got so many different songs. I've learned so many different ones of them, that it really gave me a remarkable, again, gamut of techniques, like just this the ability, basically, was from his tunes. And the coolest thing about Jake is he's also, even though he's probably the biggest superstar in the ukulele world, performing with Bette Midler or whatever else, he's just Jimmy Buffett. He's just so down to earth. He's so cool. And I've gotten to chat with him more than once. I've gotten to attend his shows. I think I've seen Jake live about like 8 to 10 times. And every time it's just amazing. And every time I get to talk to him has just been phenomenal. I've gotten to play a little bit with him, play a little bit for him. A really funny thing was when I did my album. The title track on my album is called Dragonfly, and I did the song, and it was only after writing the song that I found out it sounds a lot like one of Jake's songs that I'd never heard or had seen before, and got to talk to Jake and show him, I swear I wasn't trying to rip you off, like this just happened. And he said there's only so much you can do in the key of E minor on ukulele, but the reality is the reason why my song sounded so much like his was because of all the inspiration that I had, and from him in terms of his songwriting, his ability, his style is really what I try to play like. So Jake is absolutely, to me, the most influential player, not just because of his superstar status, but because of his ability with his techniques, his tone, his control as a solo instrumentalist, and his just wide range of different types of songs he's played. When I first started performing, my set list was like 80% Jake songs. So it was just me trying to do my best impersonation of him. And that is really what helped me learn how to be a good player. And so Jake, definitely number one on this list from that standpoint. Amazing human being, such a supportive, humble person. But he's got the chops that everybody sort of aspires to, right? And so to kind of sum this up, at first when I started learning the ukulele and was learning these Jake songs, I would practice them and play them, and I would close my eyes and I would imagine that I was performing like Jake, like a kid playing guitar pretending to be Jimi Hendrix, or a kid throwing a football pretending to be Peyton Manning. That's what it was like for me with Jake. But once I started performing, that kind of went away a little bit, because when I was performing, I was like, I'm not Jake. I'm not, this isn't, this doesn't feel the same. But what happened was I started teaching. And when I started teaching other people to play those songs that I learned, those Jake Shimabukuro songs and the style like that, and saw their faces when they realized they can play While My Guitar Gently Weeps, they can play these songs, they can do that. That was where I had the aha moment of this is what I should be doing for my life, is trying to help other people have that same feeling I had when I was learning and just having fun. I'm not much of a performer. I don't really like performing. I get high anxiety with it. Teaching, on the other hand, I love to do, because the reality is everything I'm doing here, you can do too, if you have enough time to do it and enough, patience to work on it. So Jake Shimabukuro, that's the last one. So these five, just to recap, we've got Daniel Ho, who, again, first song I ever learned, got to perform with him, multiple Grammy Award winner, incredible multi-instrumentalist, just phenomenal musician. Herboda Jr., who's absolutely hysterical to watch perform because he's always messing with things and everything else, but he's got the best tone, best control, best clarity, articulation. John King, the master of the campanella technique and putting melodies over all four strings of the ukulele to create these bell-like rich tones. We've got James Hill, the most innovative player of all time, and also, I would say, my dearest friend of an ukulele player in terms of these lists, because he helped me so much to do everything when it comes to being a professional. And finally, Jake Shimabukuro, who also has been a very supportive person over the years, but really his style, his sound, his arrangements, everything that he would play is what I wanted to learn and would work towards. And that's kind of why I have a similar tone to him. I'm not his tone, mind you, I would love his tone, but why my style is so similar is because my education was learning the works of Jake Shimabukuro. So there you have it. Other players that I have to mention, like Craig Chi and Sarah Maisel are just phenomenal, and Craig's been a very dear friend for a long time. He did a lot of these festivals with me, performed together. I love Craig. I didn't mention him at the beginning. And there's so many players. Evan De Silva is, holy smokes. Did you guys see the newest video he did of Hedwig's theme? Oh my gosh. That'll probably be linked down below. Unbelievable. The ukulele's in good hands moving forward. Fang Yi's another one that's just phenomenal. There's so many incredible ukulele players that are out there. But that's just the 5 that have had the most profound impact on me. So I'm going to look in the chat. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them. I'll kind of look through them right now. Hello, Zill. Hello, Connie. Connie said, I bet Jake is number 1 on that list. Yeah, you got that one. I'm looking forward to hearing some new ones. He was sampling Petros Ukes on the ukulele site. I'm not sure which one that is, Herb or Daniel probably. Zill says, speaking of decent tone, yours is awesome, Matt. Thank you. I appreciate that. The one thing I feel like I have, I feel very confident in my tone when I'm playing something I'm very comfortable with. And that's from listening to Jake so much. I would just put songs on repeat and try to emulate them. And so when it comes to just playing very, very simple, very simple melodies, I try to create that sort of sound. And that's all thanks to Jake. So Connie says, I've never heard of John King. Awesome. Not awesome that you haven't heard of him, but awesome that now you have and you can check it out. You'll love his stuff. Zill says, Jake is the playing I aspire to. Me too. Drew says, I aspire to play like Matt too. It's all a facade. No, I'm kidding. Zill says, I need to listen more uke music. These are good for my playlist at work. Yeah, and so for an album for each person, my favorite album for each one of them. The favorite for Daniel Ho is Polani. My favorite for Herb Oda is Step It Up 2. It's with Daniel Ho, or really any of the ones they did together is fantastic. For John King, it's actually funny because my albums of his are mostly from educational books. He actually has a book that is, I think it's just called Classical Ukulele, and it teaches that arrangement that I was just showing, as well as a lot of simpler ones too, including like Danny Boy, Jesus, Joy of Man's Desire. A lot of classical tunes and traditional tunes are on that, so check that out for sure. For James Hill, A Flying Leap is my favorite of his original album. And then for Jake, my favorite Jake album is Live, 2009. That album changed my life in terms of, that's what I listened to try to figure out how to play. So Zill says, the fanciest person I've ever seen live is Craig Chi. That was fun. Yeah, Craig is a fantastic live performer. Connie says, Evan's Hedwig theme is really good. So he's really amazing. I agree. And Rock Class asks, how do you non-ukulele players influence you? Which is a great question. And so my biggest influence musically that's not an ukulele is Tommy Emmanuel, who's a guitarist. And I would say that Tommy Emmanuel and Jake Shimabukuro are the 2 most important musicians for me as a ukulele player. Jake for the technique and tone and style, but then Tommy from the instrumental music standpoint, the harmonies that Tommy Emmanuel uses, the melody lines that he uses, just connected with me in a way that no other musician has. And most of my original songs, you'll notice, sound, in a similar type of texture and tone as Jake, similar style from that way. But a lot of the harmonies, and those are more Tommy Emmanuel inspired. And so Tommy Emmanuel is my most, the most influential to my playing for sure. But other musicians I love, I really love Jack White, the White Stripes, the Rockin' Tours, his solo stuff. He's probably my favorite artist right now to listen to in general. I love everything about his music. I'm also a big fan of the Foo Fighters, who have a new album coming out soon, I think. But otherwise, I listen to a pretty large range of music. I'm a big fan of the Beatles, big fan of the Who. Jimi Hendrix is a favorite. These are all ones that both have made an influence just for what I enjoy listening to, as well as what I take inspiration to for playing. And then ironically, a lot of the music that I just listen to, I sort of purposely make it not ukulele related. What happens whenever I listen to something that I want to do on the uke, I start thinking that way, and listening music becomes a little bit more exhausting than maybe it should. And so I listen to a lot of just I love lo-fi instrumental type music. Turn off your brain and just let it on. I love that stuff because it lets me just kind of relax and be more passive in my listening. So I have active listening that's more ukulele related, more passive listening that's meant to be just in the background. So let me see if there are any other questions. I just realized it's on Top Chat instead of live chat. Zill says, I'd love to hear you teach some of these favorites on RC 101. Looking forward to what's coming. Absolutely. Yeah, it's I try to incorporate these different techniques into what I do on Rock Class, in terms of the techniques and styles. You'll notice that they're very, Jake-esque in sometimes, or more of the other players. In fact, I just did a tutorial for rock class that's going to be launching here soon. I did the arrangement, recorded it yesterday, of a certain jazz tune. I won't say what it is right now, but when I was playing that, I was thinking of Herb. Even though it's not a song in necessarily Herb's style, it's playing up the neck in a way that is very much looking for the articulation and stuff. So I absolutely use all 5 of these players. I draw inspiration from, even if the song isn't related to their style, the technique might be. So very cool. Well, this has been a fun talk. I just talking about 5 of my favorites. Again, this is not a comprehensive list. There's so many other great players that you have to check out. And ironically, all 5 of mine, they were all really big in like 2009 and 2008 when I was learning. There's a whole new generation of players out there that are just phenomenal. And I need to check out more of them, and I need to learn more from them. But these 5 were really the ones that gave me my list. Kai says, what happened to your honorable mentions? So I mentioned those at the beginning, but I'll say some of them again, like Calais Gamiao, Aldrine Guerrero, Chris Fujigami, Brittany Paiva, Taimani Gardner, Evan De Silva, Craig Chi, and Sarah Maisel. I'm leaving people out, I know it. Corey Fujimoto, holy smokes, unbelievable player. Who else? I know as soon as I hang up, I'm going to be like, oh God, how did I forget all these people? God, there's so many incredible players, but those are a few of them. Yeah, and so Zill also says, what up and comer do you most have your eye on? It's not a contest. It's Evan. I think that Evan is going to be. Evan already is in objectively the top ukulele players in the world. His tone, his control, unbelievable. It's really frightening good. But his arranging and his songwriting and his musicality, it's equal to that. And that's rare. It's very rare to find somebody who's both technically proficient with amazing tone control, but also musically proficient with their ability to arrange songs, ability to perform songs, their ability to use dynamics in a musical way, that rubato technique, and just the format of his arrangements are so good. And he's so young. Unreal. So Evan is definitely the player to have your eye on. He's almost too good. It's just like, I watch his videos and I think, well, I'm never going to do that song. Like, I watched the Hedwig's theme and I thought, why do I even bother? I mean, not really, but it's just, he's so good. So Evan's the one I have my eye on for sure. But awesome. Well, this has been super fun. I hope that you guys all got something out of this. It was fun to just kind of go down memory lane and talk about some of my favorite ukulele players. Again, so many good ones out there, and they're all, it's a good time to be an ukulele player. But thank you so much for coming to this. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. If you're watching this as a recording, every month we'll do a different one of these live sessions on Saturday at 9 a.m., second Saturday of the month. And I'll look forward to seeing you guys next time. Take it easy. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.